there's some among you here who are fanfiction writers, don't be ashamed, you're talking to one. Now you don't have to actually post something at fanfiction.net, you just need to at least once in your lifetime fantasize about your favorite characters doing things that TV or video games don't have them do. For example, fantasizing about Batman, Optimus Prime, and He-Man in the wonderful adventure of filing tax returns. Now when you make a fanfiction, whether it's in your head or you actually put it on paper, there's only one main reason for you to write it: your own personal enjoyment. So when I see a fanfiction being published at Waypoint, a video game website, I know that there's something wrong here. Why is a video game website claiming to deliver news is shoving this fanfiction up to everyone's face? Is this fanfiction worthy of reading? Well, unfortunately, I cannot convert this fanfiction into another visual novel because honestly, I just couldn't be bothered. Instead, I want to rip off Yahtzee, as usual. So what is the story? Well, to put it simply, and by simply I mean to spare you the horrendous writing, it's a story of 9S from Nier Automata being humiliated by not only 2B but other female characters in video games as well. All of them are in 2017. What kind of humiliation, you might ask? Well, at first he's confused of being a girl because he's wearing a skimpy red skirt of some sort. Trap 9S in a red skirt? Now you have my attention, story. He's also further humiliated by having his skirt stripped by 2B, further exposing his underpants, causing him to go all red in embarrassment. Now all that's left is Futa 2B drilling 9S's black box. Surprisingly, that doesn't happen. Apparently, the skirt lifting scene was supposed to highlight the many times that 2B got her skirt lifted off of her and the many times player desperately want to see what's underneath. This is at the point where we realize that this isn't really a fanfiction because a real fanfiction would actually get to the drilling. Instead, this is a social commentary, and the social commentary is apparently about the treatment of women in video games at 2017. That's right, if they can't tell game developers and writers stories that they want, they're gonna do it themselves and then post it to the news website so that everyone can see it. Instead of competing for views with many other garbage fanfiction writers off of Tumblr, they decided to just cheat their way out. So congratulations, writer, everyone now will suffer your garbage writing. Okay, fine, you have a message about the treatment of women in video games in 2017. Now how are you going to spread this social commentary? By abusing an innocent man, of course. Seriously, what does 9S ever do to you? The title of this article alone is already implying that 9S is everyone's least favorite know-it-all. I don't know about you, but 9S is my boy. Sure, his gameplay is garbage, but he didn't do anything particularly offensive. I'm not really sure what triggered this writer to humiliate 9S. Why not Link? I'm sure Link has his fair shares of douchebag actions. Anyway, after 2B lifted 9S's skirt off, what happens next is 9S going further and further into the humiliation by having him joining the Phantom Thief to distract the shadows with a bikini. I'm not kidding, this is a thing that happened in the fanfiction. That is until they remembered that the shadow that they're fighting is actually Succubus and they've had much better luck punching Rangda in the face. That also didn't happen. You see, this fanfiction is so boring that I need to add my own spin every 10 seconds. And then he's being put as a freaking idol, having him serve in a cat cafe, all to the point where he becomes comfortable being called a she. If this is the writer's way of highlighting gender dysphoria, even straight people are going to consider the news. But at least throughout this horrendously cringy fanfiction of cross-dressing and gender dysphoria, we finally get to the drilling, right? Nope, we now get into a scene where 9S meet up with all the female characters that he apparently talked crap at. So what kind of crap that he taught towards the girl? I'm actually not very sure myself. It's just him giving bad advice, and the girl's decision of punishing him for giving bad advice is to put him in the most humiliating situations. Talk about cruel and unusual punishment. I know that 2B tends to be hypocritical about her rules on prohibiting emotions, but at least it wasn't this bad. Regardless, this is the part where he apologized to the girls, and by apologize I mean being an insufferable cuck-at, and everything goes back to normal. Until he decided to open his goddamn mouth and the girls put him back on the trials again through a familiar blinding white light. And then it's revealed that all the female characters are actually futas and the next part of the humiliation is being spit roasted by 2B's magnificent Phoenix Land. Nah, that's just my fanfiction mindset kicking in. This isn't a fanfiction, this is a cheap attempt at social commentary that doesn't say anything and ham-fists its message up to people's black box. I have no idea what this writer is trying to say. The first point that I can think of is how humiliating being an idol and being a maid can be. Yes, I know, writer, it can be horrendously humiliating, especially when you are forced to do it. What if 9S actually wants to become an idol or become a maid? What if 2B and A2 actually wants to become maids themselves? Coincidentally, I have the fan art right here and look how freaking happy they are. This writer needs to see either Blenda's, Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, or Oran High School Host Club before she can even talk about anything idol or maid culture related. On her Twitter, people start accusing her of abusing 9S. Now, while I agree that 9S isn't a child, I still find the abuse towards him to be rather psychotic. And I don't mean psychotic in a kinky, ironic way like my hypothetical scenarios. I mean psychotic in a genuinely psychotic way. All of this humiliation is done to teach 9S a lesson of some sort. What kind of lesson? The female characters are being humiliated for dressing up like maids and being an idol? It's so confusing. I decided to go into the writer and let her clarify her goals, but it only makes things 10 times more confusing.
My intent was to write a light, fun piece that demonstrated that the way women are treated in video games is still embarrassing.
Then why did you abuse 9S? What did he do? As far as I know, 9S didn't tell 2B to wear that maid outfit. What did he do other than giving them advice that they can just choose not to follow and tell him to go suck a black box? Why do you have to humiliate him that much? It's what I would describe as a cruel and unusual punishment for just a couple of garbage advices. The way you use this fanfiction to convey your message is confusing. Hell, the message itself is confusing. It's like talking to Chewbacca through a broken radio during a stormy day. You're not going to understand, not even with communication mediums. I still have no idea why this fanfiction is published, other than narcissistic self-fulfillment and trying to get attention.
When I was a teen, I had literally nowhere else to see myself beyond stories written on sites I felt ashamed to visit. The stories were often crass, but they made me feel like I could make it as a woman someday. They kept my dreams alive.
Well, I guess there's a reason why this fanfiction is removed from the site, and pretty much everyone hates it. You know what they say about fanfictions? It's always going to be written for one's own personal pleasure. And if one's own personal pleasure consists of dressing 9S in a red skirt and stripping him away, I'm not gonna judge. Except when no drilling is involved. Talk about mishandling of LGBT characters, am I right? So that took me around 6 to 7 minutes. Looks like I'm gonna have to pad things out by talking about something else so that we can reach the 10-minute mark. Let's see here. Speaking of fanfiction, Marvel, how are you guys doing with your official social justice fanfictions? It's been a while since I'm covering up Marvel comics, but it's mostly because I decided to hand over the duties of reporting these things to Diversity in Comics because he is infinitely better equipped in handling canon Marvel materials than casual plebs like me, who only knows Marvel through the movies and internet videos. And through Diversity in Comics and also my own research, of course, I found out that the comics department of Marvel has been pretty freaking insane lately. It's been established over the years that a lot of these writers at Marvel Comics hate you as an audience, and they're gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that you buy their comics, not because the comics are actually good, but because if you don't buy the comics, you're a horrible person, the equivalent of Hitler. Thankfully, the tactics of insulting your audience until they buy your book turns out to be not working so well, as Marvel Comics finally realized that not only social justice in comic books doesn't sell, but hurling insults to your audiences if they don't want to buy your comics only make them not want to buy your comics even more. The worst case scenario is Marvel, actually the Western entertainment industry as a whole, is giving a really good reason in why there's a rising number of weebs in the past couple of years. If the Western entertainment industry continues on shoving social justice to everyone, the rise of weebs in current year plus one can now be explained as Western entertainment industry sucking to absolute puritans to the point where modern anime looks great in comparison. In 2018, if you're going to get shamed on being a weeb, all you need to do is to point at the current Western entertainment industry and tell them, I'd rather have big giant anime titties than having some jackass lecturing me about not being a racist while the same person continuously hates on white people in social media. Thanks to the absolute cringe that was a lot of Marvel comics these days, their sales not only dropped into the bottom pile, but also their books have been cancelled as well. Karmic retribution? Well, after the cancellations of a couple of books, Marvel's solution in moving away from social justice and other contentious issues is to become a massive freaking Puritan. So right now, they have this sort of create your own platform program which allows fans to make their own original comic strips using Marvel characters and stock backgrounds. But apparently, if you want to participate, you need to make sure that your comic does not include the following content: contraceptives, sexually explicit images, nudity, death, graphic violence, depictions of alcohol, tobacco or drugs, suggestive revealing images, sensationalism, obscenity, bad or offensive language, censored offensive language, body parts or noises related to bodily functions, potentially slanderous or libelous content, double entendres, politics, and other controversial topics. In other words, K-on, because that's literally what they're asking. Make Marvel comic characters in a slice of life story where the characters do nothing but playing music and sharing cakes. Actually, Marvel, if you're going to have this massive amount of roles in your comic, I think a much better idea would not be giving all your fans the rights for these characters. All you need to do is to look at fanfiction.net and see how many fanfictions of Spider-Man shooting his web down to Mary Jane's vajayjays before you say enough. Now, someone told me that bad people are idiots, but idiots are not bad people. I think Marvel Comics fall into the first category. They're filled with bad people who did nothing but idiotic things, and in my opinion, the best way for them to redeem themselves is to at least make Infinity War good.